There we go. Okay, sound check. Test 1, 2, 3. Let's see who's in the chat room. Goodness gracious. Tommy's here. Rudy's here. Guido, Frank, Dr. Jen, welcome. Sue Fan, Martin S., John, Ray, John L., the wife, welcome the wife. Ovanas, Vendran, Kenny, Paul, Scott, Prashana, Jerry, Giles, Dave, Johnny, Rich, guest 119. Now remember, guests, when you put in a number like that, we're thinking that it means something, so we need to know what 19 means. Ray K from Michigan, Alan, D. Wham from France, welcome. Guillaume, 924, Rich, and let's see, it just jumped. Peter, Ken, Russell, Mike, John, Jimmy, we're going to chat by email afterwards. Tommy House, Jan, Bill, Gavin, Rafael, and Brian, welcome. And if I didn't welcome you by name, it may mean that you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. So come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and you can get in on the chat. You say, well, Tom, what's this deal about the chat? What's the chat? This is the chat. This is the chat. So when we do when we're taking feedback from folks that are watching, they're in the chat room, and they're in the chat room at easternshorebroadcasting.com, so you'll want to come on over. This, as you've already guessed, is Seth Haberman. We're not in show yet. This is pre-show. We're just a little late getting on. Had a couple little details to iron out. And so we got Seth on here. We've got 54 people watching on YouTube. I don't know what the Facebook number is. And then about 9 or 10 less than that in chat. So again, come on over easternshorebroadcasting.com, click the watch live button, and that'll put you in here, and you can join in with everybody else, because nobody likes to be left out. Nobody likes to be left out. So let's see. Nobody is shouting that they can't hear anything. So I'm guessing, check, that everything's going out. You guys didn't give me a sound check. Come on, sound check. Doggone it. I also want to know if anybody has tallied what the latency is today on Facebook or on YouTube. Audio fine. Thank you, Mike. I always worry about these kind of things. Okay, all right. So we've got, looks like about a 10 to 15 second latency there on YouTube. We won't worry about that. Oh, Ken Davis is here. Bishop Ken Davis is in the house. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you. Clock, please. Okay, well, let's put a little clock up here so you guys can see what, where is the clock? The clock is right there. So if you would compare that. Dr. Jen apparently has my sense of humor. He says, can you turn it up a little bit? I listen with a lisp. I love it. I love it. All right, YouTube is 6 seconds in the UK. Very good. Tommy Willis says latency is 2 hours. Thomas, welcome. Glad you're here. We are not in show yet. We're still in pre-show. Want to invite anybody watching on YouTube or Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, down at the bottom there, and you can get to see the chat, which is right here. And that's the fun part. Mike L. says 6 seconds, 7 seconds in Canada, 6 seconds in San Diego. That's great. YouTube is doing a great job, aren't they? 14 seconds in England. Jan is not sure. Jan, I cannot read that and understand it. 230 frames per second. Amazing. All right, we need a Tommy show, says Tommy. 5 seconds in North Alabama. That's because you're so close, because I'm down here on the Gulf Coast of Alabama. 6 seconds in Connecticut. 5 in Montgomery. 22 seconds on Facebook. Thank you, Chris. That was the missing link right there. Okay. All right, 7 seconds. Negative 7 seconds if Vendran can see into the future. Okay, 8 seconds in upstate New York. And Ken can actually hear it before I say it. That is amazing, Ken. Amazing. I don't know that that's good, but it is amazing. All right. So we are about ready to go. Again, a quick quick welcome to our guest, Seth. We're going to get Seth on as officially as a guest in just a minute. Let's see, Seth, I am going to mute you for just a minute. No offense. And
none taken.
Okay, and then we'll get on with the show and just see. Ray says he's already watching the next episode. He's got so much negative latency. Where do you guys come up with this stuff? I don't know. Okay, all right, so we're going to mute Seth. Seth is muted. Got to remember to unmute Seth or I'll be in big trouble. And let's see, let's go back to the show tab. We'll cut over to this one for a second. And you know what? If I've done this right, this ought to just work. So is everybody ready? I'm ready. Let's give it a go. Fade to black. Hello, and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is Streaming Idiots. If you've always wanted to be a live streamer and have been afraid that you might make a mistake in doing it, you have come to the right place, because we make mistakes like nobody else's business. I mean, the whole concept behind this show is I want to show you all the mistakes real in live real time, so that you don't feel so bad when you make one, and so that you know how you get out of it once you made it. Used to be, a long time ago, I was the one man, one PC, one awesome broadcast guy. Never really got to the awesome broadcast, but really mastered the art of doing live streaming on one PC. Now I cheat just a little bit now. I'm using a second PC. You can see the laptop over my shoulder here, and the laptop's actually doing the streaming and the recording. But I've got one PC in front of me with two monitors that I'm doing all the live production on, and it's a ton of fun. We need to do a studio tour sometime. Let me make a note of that. Studio tour. Okay, great. I am pumped because all sorts of great things are happening in the world of live streaming. Number one, because I've got one of the coolest guests you could ever hope for. I've got Seth Haberman from the Cloud Media Group. Seth is he's a modern day Renaissance man, is what he really is. You know, in his spare time, he's a tester for vMix. In his spare time, he writes apps for vMix, like the virtual control surface for vMix that allows you to control all the vMix functions from an iPad. I mean, it's amazingly cool. Plus, he's a pastor at his church, which is his full-time gig. And we're going to bring him on in just a minute, actually from the sanctuary of his church. So you might hear just a tad of room noise in the background. But before we do, I need to give a couple shout-outs. First of all, I want to give a shout-out to Byron Lindsay, because Byron has made a lot of the cool frames that we use on this show. So if you see a frame, it was probably made by Byron, and he and I are trying to put together some packages where we can, you know, right now we're sort of testing them to see do they have the right opacity, the right thickness, all that kind of thing. And then we might just share some of them with you. Also want to give a big shout out and a welcome to all the folks that have joined our Facebook group. And you say, what in the world is a Facebook group? Well, our Facebook group, Streaming Idiots, is facebook.com/groups/Streaming Idiots. And it's folks that watch this show. Now, you don't have to be an idiot to join, but it helps. But a shout out to Scott Piena, Troy T.O.B., Martin Sinclair, Daniel Pinnell, Chris Begay, Zam Zoom, Mike Nelson, Bronze Titan, Shubham Ad, Kai Davis, Mark Goldby, Ray Kazora, R.J. Murdoch, Mike Mancy-Juski, Martin Kennedy, Ron Lindsay, Brian Anderson, Jory Holness, Lynn Sagan, Jesse Watch, Joe Cabrice, Bruce Richardson, Faram Malik, and Jamie Buckwall. Those are the folks that were so bold as to join the Streaming Idiots Facebook group this week. And what you'll find when you get there is the kind of stuff that goes on between shows. We do these shows live on Wednesday afternoons at easternshorebroadcasting.com. And If you click watch live, you'll go there now. And by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook live right now and you want to get in on the chat, go over to easternshorebroadcasting.com. The same feed is there, plus it has the chat room. And there are about 5 or 6 dozen folks in the chat room right now just cutting up and having a good time. So come join the Facebook group. There are lots of things. Frequently when we've got Eastern Shore Broadcasting also is kind of has my online store. I'm a vMix reseller, so vMix is there, Magewell is there, PTZ Optics cameras are there, X keys are there, like my X keys 24 right here, and you can get all that in the store. And a lot of times we'll do specials on that stuff, so if you join the group, you can be aware of the specials as they happen. The other big news, of course, is that vMix 19, the preview, what vMix calls their betas, was released about, about 10 days ago. And then just this Monday, vMix 19.0.0.32 was released, and it's got some great features in it. Of course, it's got vMix Call in it. vMix Call is the thing that allows you to throw away Skype, throw away Zoom. You don't have to use an outside package to take a remote guest into vMix anymore. You can do it through vMix Call, and you can do it with up to 8 callers. We tested it yesterday in a special test. I think we got up to 7 callers because we couldn't get that 8th. No, that's right, we did get the 8th one dialed in later. And we'll show you some of the video from that in just a few minutes. The other neat things that are in vMix 19, and these are not, these are teeny little features, but for those of you that have been waiting for them, these are really going to be exciting features. For example, you can, if you accidentally close an input in vMix, there's an undo button, and you can bring it right back. I love it. Oh yeah, somebody says I have a green pen. It's invisible. Oh, that's great. I love it. Didn't even notice that. Thank you. You used to be you had up to 5 multi-views. You could take an input like me right here, and I can multi-view by putting in a background. I can put in a graphic. I can put in another graphic and another graphic, and kind of stack all that stuff on each other. But you could only go 5 layers deep. Now you can go 10 layers, and if you have 8 people on a phone call, on a vMix call, it's nice to be able to go 10 deep. They've also added an operating and streaming resolution of 2560 by 1440. I don't know that I'll ever use that, but if you need it, it's there. You also now can crop inputs. Used to be you could crop them by sort of dragging the lines around and cropping like this. Now when you get it close, you can actually crop it digitally by putting in a number. So those are really fun additions to vMix 19. vMix 19 has not been released yet. It's still in beta. We're guessing, vMix is going to be showing at the NAB show, National Association of Broadcasters show, in Las Vegas in April. And so we're hoping that maybe it'll be announced, kapow, as a completed project at that point. Doesn't mean they won't still be adding features to it after that, because they're known to do that. But it means that it would be the official release. And so when you downloaded vMix in order to buy it, that's what you would get, would be 19. But for now, it's only 18. Okay, got all the preliminaries out of the way. I am so charged up to have our special guest today, and let me bring him in. Let me find the button. Oh yeah, and we got to unmute his audio. I need to get an X keys button for that. Welcome, Seth. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
And you're there, and we got audio. I did it right. Woo! All right. Now Seth is coming to us.
It works.
Amen. Seth is coming to us from his sanctuary. So if you hear a little bit of room echo, that's what you're hearing. Is a for real room echo. Now, Seth, you are, as I said in the intro just a minute ago, you're sort of a modern day Renaissance man. I mean, you've got your fingers in all sorts of pots. But there was a point in your life when you didn't know live streaming existed, and then one day you did. Tell me about that day.
Yeah, so basically, I was going to church, and I knew of churches that had somehow live streamed, and I thought to myself, like, we got to do this. We got to figure out a way. And so I went online and started searching for ways to do live streaming, and this was probably, like 2007, 2008. And I found a couple different companies, and I just got like a little cheapo webcam and plugged it into my computer and streamed. And then I called my pastor and I said, hey, you should check this website out. And he checks out the website, and it's me waving at the camera, and he was just blown away that we could do that. And so, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I love video and all sorts of technology. I love the way that things work together. And I figured, like, man, how can we integrate this into our church and our ministry? And we've just built it from there. And so it's been a lot of fun.
I am convinced, Seth, and we're just going to take just a little bit of a rabbit trail for a minute, but I'm convinced that the creator of the universe designed this technology and laid it out there for us to find so that we could use it for his purposes. How about that for a statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for instance, for me or our founding pastor, because we have two campuses of our church, and on any typical Sunday between both churches, we might be able to reach anywhere from 200 to 300 people between our two churches in person. But then you get live streaming into it, and you get YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and you're able to reach hundreds and thousands of people more than you would just in person. So I definitely think live streaming is something that I bet the apostles and preachers of the gospel wish that they could have had. I think of like John Wesley, who I think I had heard that he had ridden over like 150,000 miles on a horse all throughout England to preach the gospel, and just with a horse. And then we have all these tools and live streaming and YouTube and everything, and like, man, they put us to shame with their horse.
Well, we've got it easy, but in some ways I think the battle's probably just as hard. But if you think about 1,000 churches out there,
Sure.
or 10,000 churches out there, or 100,000 churches out there, live streaming all around the world at all times of day and night, the total impact is going to be incredible. And I think we've just really sort of scratched the surface. I think there's so much more to come as churches embrace this technology and they figure out how to incorporate the technology into sharing the gospel with folks that don't know the gospel, and to build the body that's already present. For folks that have got a sick baby and they've got to stay at home, they don't miss out. For folks that are traveling for whatever reason and can't attend their home church, they don't miss out. I mean, it's just it's the plus side is just full of all sorts of great things to put on it. But at some point in your process, you bumped into vMix. Tell me about that.
So initially when I started live streaming, we were it was very archaic, old school days of just Flash Media Encoder, and there really wasn't much. Well, actually, no, I take that back. We had procured a 4-channel Roland VS880 analog composite video mixer, but it was awful. The quality was awful. The cameras were terrible, and as we were able to think, man, how can we get better? How can we, upgrade to HD? And I just searched for a long time. I don't know if vMix was just not well in their SEO, search engine optimization, but I mean, I was Googling, and I just remember the day that I found this, and I was like, this is the greatest thing like I've ever seen. And I've been a vMix user for a long time, and it's always funny because they, as your viewers might know, both you and I are going to be down at the NAB show here in Vegas in a couple months. But I always tell people, like, whether they bring me down or whether I would never do a trade show with them, like, I am a vMix enthusiast. Like, I don't need to be, like, have this paid sponsorship, or anything, because vMix is just so awesome. Like, we've been using it personally here in our church, both in Moses Lake, Washington, and Spokane, Washington, for a good probably 8 years. And I mean, when we found it, it was just like, wow, this is incredible. And so we've been, it's funny because I'm a pastor, and I love studying the Word of God, but I also have this techie side that I just love figuring out how you can do things with technology and plugging things in and everything. And so I really enjoy technology too. So sometimes you might see me, instead of behind the pulpit, I'm behind the media booth tinkering around with stuff. So
a man of many talents, indeed. and one of the things that I love in dealing with you is that you're a vMix fanboy. There's no doubt about it. But you've got a humility in your spirit that means that you're willing to listen, and that's really refreshing when we talk to a lot of folks that are kind of gung ho for something. They're not always up to listening. They're more interested in talking. But you developed something for vMix a little while back, a control surface or a virtual control surface. That is, it doesn't have real physical buttons like the X keys. Tell me about the virtual control surface. And I think I've got a picture of it here too.
Yeah, so so essentially, as I was digging through vMix, the documentation, and I figured out that there was the API that you could use to, do HTTP requests to create or to trigger things in vMix. My brain started thinking, man, that'd be great to have a virtual control surface, because this was before we actually worked on the control surface that we previously had with vMix, the hardware version. But I thought, man, it would be so great to have what looks like an actual control surface. And so as I started to just do my research. I mean, I learned a couple different programming languages because I'd never even programmed. I mean, I'd done HTML before, just doing websites for our church and everything. And so I thought, you know what, we need to have this for iOS. And so I learned Xcode, taught myself Swift. And then just went to town. I've designed all the buttons myself. My wife is a graphic designer as well, and so she helped us get a lot of the graphics going for this and just everything going. And it's been a great experience. I mean, when I log into my iTunes account to see all the different countries around the world and how many people are buying this, it's really humbling to know that this many people are actually using something that I created, which is just phenomenal. And so we're actually looking at doing, in addition to the vMix virtual control surface here soon, depending on new tech. I'm really waiting for new tech to release the full NDI library for the iOS platform, because right now they have it for everything else except for iOS fully. Now it's partially integrated but not fully, because we're going to add a third tab, as you can see in that graphic that you went to. We're going to add a third tab once this library is released by new tech, which will actually allow us to turn that tab into a touch screen video touchscreen to control vMix. And so it would essentially send a multi-view screen of probably like 8 to 10 video sources, and you basically just tap on the one that you want it to go live with. But to achieve that right now, we need to have that library to be able to bring in the video feeds of all those different inputs, because we could do the touch part, but right now we're waiting for new tech to completely release that part of the NDI library. So we're excited about that as well.
And so you're actually going to be able to see what you're cutting to at the same time. That is huge. That is huge. Now
so it would essentially look like the multi-view right now in vMix, and so you would touch it, and then it would have like a little a highlighted color thing around it, letting you know that that is what is currently live. And we'd probably look to integrate, depending on how the technology works, maybe like on the touch screen on the iOS that has the force push. You could possibly even do like a force push to do an overlay. And there's a lot of different things that we're looking at doing, but we're kind of held up at this point, waiting for new tech. So
awesome. I'm trying to flash some pictures up here of what it looks like. Tell me what we're looking at here.
So this is the audio mixer. So when you connect to the instance of vMix over your network, you just type in the IP address, and there's a video and an audio tab. So what the audio tab does is it actually shows you all the audio levels that are currently going through vMix, and allows you to mix them and manipulate them with your audio faders, as well as mute them. And just let you know what your volumes are. You can turn on and off your A and B bus, as well as your mute bus or your master bus, excuse me, and then just see where your audio levels are. Because how many times are you mixing video and either your audio window isn't open, or you just can't see where the clip is, and you got to look to your audio mixer to see where that audio is coming from and to be able to mix that really quickly. But the great thing about the app too is that more than one instance of vMix, or more than one iPad, excuse me, can connect to vMix. So you could have someone mixing video on an iPad, someone mixing audio on another iPad, and we'd also looked at possibly integrating maybe a title editor in there as well. But that's kind of where we're at this point. So
it just boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. That's amazing. Now, if somebody wants to get that right now, where would they go to get it?
So it's in the App Store. So if you just search vMix, I think if you just search vMix, it'll show up by itself. But if you search vMix Virtual Control Surface in the App Store, it's available only for iOS at this point. We are looking at branching out into Android and Windows, but right now we're waiting for Microsoft to fully develop their Bridge application, which is essentially something that allows us to take our Mac version and sort of port it over to Windows pretty easily, and then from Windows we'd be able to bring it to Android, but it's not fully functional yet for Swift. But once that happens, we'll be getting it on other platforms as well. But it's available now in the App Store for the meager price of $4.99, which we used to have it for $19.99, and I'm like, man, we got to get this into the hands of the people. So we got to slash prices from left to right. We got to get units out the door.
Well, I didn't know you had that used car salesman in you, but it works. It works. I guess the only way I'm going to use it is if I borrow my wife's iPad. I'll have to do that. She's an Apple person. I'm an Android person. So.
Well, one day you might be cool enough to join the Apple Club. So I'll be praying for you.
Well, probably not. Probably not. I'll just learn patience in waiting for Microsoft.
There you go.
Switching gears again, tell me about your experience in working with vMix as a tester. I mean, it was very obvious because they had you on their first vMix 19 show. I guess that was the January show where you were the featured guest coming in from a remote location. You know, the difference between Australia and Spokane, Washington. How do you pronounce Spokane?
Yeah.
Spokane? Okay.
Spokane.
Spokane.
Yep.
Okay, it's like Nevada. That's
Spokane.
how they pronounce Nevada.
There you go.
All right, so Martin and Tim asked you to participate in that. I mean, Tell me, can you give me kind of a peel off the coverage and tell us behind the scenes what it was like to work with them as they were developing that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great opportunity to work with them. I feel like we've developed a great relationship with all the guys over at vMix, Kim and Tim and Martin. And so Tim had called me and just said that they were looking at testing this new feature, and Tim knows that I'm always up, all hours of the night and all hours of the day, and that I'm this big vMix enthusiast. So we were able to jump right on that and just work on some testing and just I mean, it really didn't take a whole lot of testing. I mean, Martin is an unbelievable, phenomenal coder and programmer. Most people aren't going to understand like how unbelievable vMix is done and how great their programming development is. But we really only had I think I would even say 1.5. I wouldn't even call it a full call. It was 1.5 calls because they had everything together that they needed to, and just had to work on a couple little bugs. And so it really wasn't a whole lot of testing.
Well, that's not much of a story. Darn, I thought you were going to say, yeah, Martin, let me take a peek at the code.
I wish there was something that was broken, but I can't. Everything was just so smooth. He didn't even give me a good chance for a good story. Things were starting on fire, and oh no, well I do have a story. When we were doing some testing, I guess something was up with the electricity or the air conditioning, and I remember Martin and Tim both working on the vMix call, and they were all very hot because it was very hot down in Australia, and their air conditioners were not working, and so I felt pretty good because it was 30 degrees up here in Washington State while they were sweating their tails off down in the down under.
Yeah, 30 was the high for the day. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
That is too fun. Now you're going to be at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Conference in Las Vegas in April on the vMix team. You were on the team last year. Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about that, because Martin has invited me to be on the team this year. He thinks I have the stamina to hold up like you young bucks.
Joining the club, my friend.
Tell us what it was like, and I guess we want to invite everybody to come by the vMix booth too, if they get to NAB.
Yeah,
we'll get details out on that.
NAB has been fantastic. We've been going to vMix for, I think this will be our third year. That we've been going to NAB, but it's just been a fantastic time, and it's always an honor and a great time to hang out with Martin and Tim and Kim and everyone else in the booth, and it'll be fun to hang out with you, because I only got to hang out with you in one day, and I guess you're like this mega celebrity or something, and so when I'm trying to talk to you, you've got this crowd of groupies around you. And so, I'm hoping one day that maybe I can talk to you for a couple minutes during NAB.
The geriatric crowd is the one that I'm being brought into for. The octogenarians.
That is not true.
Like Tommy Willis, yeah.
Yeah, and But yeah, NAB has just been a fantastic time. We're able to meet a lot of great people, learning about a lot of different setups and ways that people are using vMix that I've never even thought of, or just are very just intriguing. And so I love going to NAB every year, seeing a lot of the great booths, but just meeting a lot of people and seeing what they're using it for. And so it really even hardly, feels like work to me, because it's like a kid in a candy store. I mean, you get to go to NAB or in Vegas and you get to hang out with Tom Sinclair. What the heck? Like, that's not even, that's like recess. That's like, we have a school here at our church too, and so they love recess, and my recess is going and hanging out with Tom Sinclair in the vMix booth.
I feel the exact same way. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. In fact, there are two great opportunities for vMix folks. One is the NAB, and I know forget who was talking about it last night in the Facebook, the Streaming Idiots Facebook group. They were talking about trying to get a meetup of vMix folks at NAB on Tuesday night. And so if something happens on that, we'll make sure everybody knows about it. But there's also another event coming in June, a vMix meetup at a conference called StreamCon that's going to be in Atlanta. And that's like June 7th, 8th, and 9th or something like that. And we'll have more details on that. Martin's going to be there. I think Tim's going to be there. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we kind of have a West Coast thing and kind of have an East Coast thing. So we're covering most of the country with that. Really, really good stuff. For anybody that just joined us, Seth is a vMix guy from way back. I'm a more recent vMix generation. Seth has been helping the vMix guys test version 19, which is still in beta, and that's what we're using today is version 19. You notice there were a couple of frame drops on his side, so obviously there's a bug or two left in it. But and in fact, when we connected earlier,
Tom.
yeah, that's right. Everybody does. They say it's Tom's fault. When we connected earlier, he connected to me at 1080p, 4 megabits per second, 60 frames per second. And my system, my little second generation i7 here just said, no, we can't handle that. So right now we're connected at 720p, 30 frames a second, and 2 megabits per second. So a little bit more reasonable. But for those of you that are interested in 1080, it's there. You just got to have the horsepower to be able to run it. Seth, stay with me here because I want you to see. Yesterday we had a test of vMix call, and I tried to get 8 guys on the call. Now 8 is the most you can have. There are 3 editions of vMix that have this vMix call feature in it. There's HD, which allows for 1 caller. There's 4K, which allows for 2 callers, and then there's Pro, which allows for 8 callers. And so we use the Pro to try to bring in 8 callers. And let me cut over to this video, and I'll show it to you before I start. You'll recognize some of the faces, and in a minute you'll recognize some of the voices. But we've got 3 callers across the top, 3 callers in the middle row, and on the left side of the middle row, Elvis was calling in on his phone, and so we got kind of a sketchy little frame rate on him. And then Tommy was calling in on the bottom, and of course that's me on the bottom right. And then the bottom left eventually did fill up with, I think Rafael was calling in from Poland, and we got him. But let me play just a little bit of this video so that you guys can get a feel for what it was like. It was really pretty cool. Recording shouldn't affect. If you're just joining us, this is the test. We did a test on Tuesday of the ability for vMix Call to bring in a lot of different callers, and as you can see, we're almost completely full of folks, and I appreciate you guys joining us for this. And we've had all sorts of fun with this with the software so far. We've played with the merge effect, which allows us to do all sorts of really cool things that you would only see. Let's see. Oh no, let's do it this way. Come on, there we go. We'll do it like that, and then we'll come here and we'll do it like that, And we've got to figure out why everything switches screens like that, but we'll work that out. And so
We
CPU.
thought you were doing that. We thought that was some artistic piece you were adding to it.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
we kind
that's
of
right.
moved around,
Well, it probably
putting
has to do with what Giles was saying earlier about rearranging the multi-views, so where they were layered. Either that or just moving people around. I'm not sure. We'll have to play with it and see. And it could be a bug. I mean, we're using things in a beta, so obviously it's not a finished product yet. And you can see those guys were having PC right here. We are running
way too much fun.
34%. We went on. I think the call probably was an hour and a half, and nobody really wanted to get off. But Ken had to go back to work. Ken works in a candy factory, and
What?
and one of the products he makes is a lollipop called a Dum Dum, which I thought was perfect for streaming
goodness.
idiots. So. But
Well,
that was fun. So vMix called up to 8 callers, and you saw the quality of the video. Different people were coming in with different resolutions. Probably four or five people were coming in the same way you are right now at 720p 2 megabits per second. A couple were coming in at 360 because that's all the bandwidth they had. And then I was sending back in the very end, we experimented with it, and I sent back consistently 720p at 1.2 megabits per second. But we actually got all the way up to 2 megabits per second on the return feed to 7 guests. And the response, I mean, the actual, let's see if I can pull up some statistics here. Let's see if we can make this stop. I'm gonna fade into this one. See if we can't stop it immediately. Yeah, right there. You can see the statistics. I was sending 5.5 megs and receiving between 9 and 10 megs, and that was with 7 callers and a CPU of 37% on an old i7 second generation. Martin had sent me an email. And said, you better have a beefy PC if you're going to do 8 callers. But turns out we didn't need it. Well, Seth, I want to thank you for taking time with us today and coming on the show. And I can't wait to hanging out with you guys in April.
Yeah, absolutely.
At NAB. Any closing thoughts?
No, just thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor, and I can't wait to hang with you guys at the vMix booth. Yeah, so that's all that I got, and hope everyone can take a look at the vMix app if you have an iPad. And then also, if you are interested or have anything to do with scoreboards or anything, we also have, if you want to check out in the vMix forum, we developed the Dactronics. We have a little thing I put on there that we're working on. We've synchronized Dactronics scoreboard to a custom title that we did, and maybe we'll have to come on the show maybe again sometime and talk about that.
Let's get you on in late summer, right before football season. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right, and bring it to NAB. I want to see you.
Hey, yeah, let's do it. We just got to have someone down there that's got one of those Dactronic boards. So I think if the gym that we use, if we took it there, I think they would probably be a little upset if it was gone.
Okay. All right. Well, Seth, thanks for coming on. If you've got a minute or two to hang out with us in post-show, otherwise I understand if you
I
can't.
probably got 2 minutes. I actually have some kids. We're about ready to do our weekly chapel service for our Christian school. We have a Christian school of about 72, 73 people, and so we're about to have chapel, and our kids are about waiting on me. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I got probably about 2 minutes. I had someone in the chat room I saw was asking me the earpiece that I used, but this is actually what I use for my in-ears at church as well as this. But this is just a company called All Claire. That it's a great little in-ear piece if you guys want to have like a cool little molded earpiece, and it's got a little cable that comes down. It's really discreet, so if you want to do calls, you want to look like the Secret Service and be really cool, you just put your hand up there, and then you're cool.
Great. Okay. All right. Well,
But yeah, that company is All Claire.
all right. Hold on as long as you can. Let's get this call going. Whoops. And that's not what we were doing. We were doing this one right here. So you know, you're a one-man show. You just never know what's going to happen next. Folks, thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, please join the Streaming Idiots group. I think you'll have a lot of fun with that. And if I can help you in any way, shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com. Until next week, another great show. We'll see you then. Take care. Have fun. Be good. And we are out. And we have got Seth in the post show. There he is for at least another 30 seconds.
Yeah, and here. How about this, Tom? I'll let you. We'll do this for you. I'm going to. You can pipe in if you want to, but I'm going to. Just gonna bring this up here. Since I have to go and do our chapel with our kids, I'm actually going to turn the camera around, and if you just want to like have the viewers watch me play guitar in old cheesy like 1980s, 1990s like campfire songs, then you are. Okay, how about this one? Okay, and before I gotta go. Okay, do you know the old song "I am the resurrection and the life"?
I do. I grew up with it, and I'm old.
I am the resurrection and the life. You know that song?
I do.
Yeah, come on. We're gonna be doing that one. Come on.
Okay.
That's good stuff.
Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. I wish I could stay longer, but I got the kids are calling me, and I gotta answer. So
Yeah.
I'd love to stay for longer, but thank you again for having me, and yeah, I'm gonna turn it around and use whatever you want. So you can.
It's all good. Leave them wanting more. Leave them wanting more.
That's right. That's right.
Cool. Thanks,
Awesome.
man.
Thank you so much, Tom. Bless
All
you.
right. Bye now. All right. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that great? Oh, man. Seth is so cool, and I can't wait to be hanging out with him again. We got to hang out at NAB a little bit last year, and he's helped me with some things on audio on this end. Just really, really neat stuff, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on with him. Let's see. Yeah, that's what he's sending us right now in his video. So we will we'll keep up with him. So let's see. We didn't get a chance to ask him questions live. I know he caught a couple of them about the earpiece, but do you guys have anything that you think I might know the answer to? And I'm going to scroll back through the chat and see. Again, if you're joining us now, you just missed the show. But the great thing about YouTube is you can use that DVR feature. That DVR feature, and drag it all the way back to the beginning and watch us from the very beginning. All right, so let's see. Ken is asking, Tom, is the 4K 2 callers plus yourself or just yourself and one other? Ken, that's a great question. I see Giles has already answered it. The 2K is 2 callers plus you. HD is 1 caller plus you, and then the Pro Edition is 8 callers plus you. Scott loves dum-dums. Thomas said, I only got to watch a little bit of the stream. Did you go above 4050 on the CPU? Thomas, it really amazed me, but we didn't. I mean, I think we hit 42, 43%, but we never went over 50. And this is an i7, second generation i7 2600K, 16 gigs RAM. Nothing fancy. NVIDIA, GeForce GTX 750 graphics card, so not the high-end graphics card. Bringing in 7 guys at varying bit rates. I mean, the number one key to vMix call with multiple callers is going to be bandwidth. You've got to have the bandwidth. Anything less than 10 is not going to work it for more than a couple of callers. At one point, I went to send the callers. I went to send them video that was 1080p, 30 frames a second, 4 megabits per second, and my send in Task Manager went up to 50 megabits. Well, I didn't have 50 megabits. I only had somewhere between 25 and 30. So immediately they got buffering and dropped frames, and it was unusable. But the 720p at 2 megabits per second, again, this is the return video back to them. This is not the video that I would display on my end, but the return video back to them. We were able to get a really high quality with that. So high quality that when I showed them a picture of something that had text in it, they could read the text. I mean, I was showing them the stats from the vMix call manager. And in fact, I don't know if Rafael is still here in the call, but we were actually streaming and recording that. I mean, we were recording it, and then I said, well, let's stream it and let's see what the CPU does when we start streaming. And that's when it bumped up above 40. And so I showed the call manager stats, and it had everybody's password. And Rafael looked on there, and he said, you know, that password's not being used. That channel's blank. So he copied it down and called in towards the end of the show. You can see it on vMix if you go to the Eastern Shore Broadcasting channel on vMix. I mean, you can see it on YouTube. If you go to the Eastern Shore Broadcasting channel on YouTube, you can see the show that we did that was about... I guess it was about 20 minutes, maybe somewhere between 12 and 20 minutes. It wasn't very long. And then there have been some questions about whether the vMix call feature is actually truly full duplex. And so we got everybody to talk at one time. And so here are 7 or 8 people talking simultaneously, and it was evident that it was all simultaneously. It wasn't any kind of audio tricks or anything like that. It was truly full duplex. So that was a lot of fun. Let's see. What is a link to watch Seth's church? I don't know. I mean, this is what's going on now, and we'll turn on his mic so we can hear.
We trust forever in your name, the name of Jesus. We trust the name of Jesus. You are the only.
Okay, so we got that. So he's getting things ready for all those youngsters for their chapel service. But Jay Bird, I will find out what church it is. I know if you Google Cloud Media Group, you will find his website, the Cloud Media Group, and I think there's a link to the church from there. But that'll get you headed in that direction. That will get you headed in that direction. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about the music. That's good, Jan. I'll probably get flagged for that. I won't be able to monetize this content. Oh no. Goodness gracious. All right, Kenneth has got a question. In order to get more callers in and conserve bandwidth, would it work to tag team with vMix users? User 1 brings in guests. One of those users is user 2 bringing in guests in set B in that system. Then do some coordinated switching to a particular guest to the forefront, etc. This is amazing technology just the way it is. Just imagining. Kenny, I've had that thought, and I've heard others share that thought. And the concern is that vMix does mix minus automatically. Mix minus is basically the audio trick that if you send your audio into this show and the show sends you back audio, we're going to send you all the audio from the show minus your audio. So we're going to send you the mix of everything we have minus yours, so you don't hear yourself on a delay in your own ear. And vMix does that automatically with every caller. So if you kind of went from one group to another group, you would defeat the mix minus scheme. It doesn't mean you couldn't set up another mix minus, kind of in some way between the two groups. That could be done, but it would not be as easy as just setting it up as one sending to the second because of the audio problem. Audio is always the problem. Audio is always the issue. Looks like Dave has posted the link to the church right there. Boris says, Tom, can you show how you do it, including the way you do name titles? Let me do, let's see. Sure. Let me do real quickly. We'll set up a screen capture. This won't take but just a second. We'll capture everything on my second display so you guys get to see what's going on there. And I'm going to take this one right here, and I'll bring it on out. This is what I was using. We'll just go full screen with that so it's easier for you to see. This is what I was using for Seth's, and let's see, let's go to multi-view. We'll find out Seth's position. That's this one right here. So this is going to be his window on the right side, and I can make his window bigger or smaller, and then I can crop it independently. But when you get down to a certain point on crop, you want to be able to enter in a particular number so that you can get the crop just where you want it. 488. That's not it. Maybe it's 475. And you notice how right here the crop changes. And I'm going to go to 74, 73, 72, and 72 is right where I want it. So that's the digital crops. It's not a huge deal. It's just the ability to go in the same way that you can crop or that you can zoom by digital number, entering the number, or dragging the bar. Either way, you see how the numbers change. You can edit those numbers as you want to. I can come in and make a 0.5 if I wanted to. And those numbers right there happen to be the magic numbers. And since I had multiple inputs where I used this same crop, I could just copy those numbers down into the different inputs, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It was pretty easy. Okay, let's go back over here, and you can see, this is what my desktop looks like during a show. I've got the chat room up. I've got vMix Call Manager here. Whoops, don't want to show you that. And I've got YouTube up so that I can see how many folks are watching on YouTube, and I can compare that with how many folks are watching or in the chat. In the chat room, I've got the audio mixer here, and then I've got Task Manager here so that I can see what I'm doing in terms of what I'm sending. I'm sending 108 megabits per second, but I'm sending it to my second PC, so that's going over my gigabit network to a second PC, and then I'm receiving from various sources about 3 megabits. Well, I guess one of those sources, of course, is going to be Seth's videos since we've still got it going up. So let's go back over to this one here. Tom, are you back on Windows 10 now? Yes, Rod, I am. Not only am I on Windows 10, but I'm on Windows 10 Anniversary Edition. Martin Sinclair is the reason, because he said, Tom, between Windows 10 and the NVIDIA capture card, vMix will sing, especially as it has to do with vMix using Windows 10 and using the GPU to do the magic. That's all I needed to know, and I went with that. Let's see. Thomas thinks the music was short enough not to ding me. Audio is not important. Bye, gang. Stream on. Thank you, Tommy. Glad to have you. Tom, do you know if they will implement some kind of URL for sharing vMix call or QR code like I created in HTML? Vedran, that's a great question. I don't know. It sounds like it would be a great idea. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's in the feature request, and it's funny. Feature requests. Sometimes the feature requests, they will have a feature request that will get a lot of attention and have a lot of people chime in on it, and it kind of hangs out there for a while. And other times there's a feature request that gets just 1 or 2 plus ones. You can see Giles did a +1 down below in chat. And then that feature gets added just like that because Martin's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I know that's going to be really cool, and so he'll add it in. Like the digital thing we saw on the cropping just a minute ago. That one hadn't been out there very long, and he said, oh yeah, of course, we need that. Let's see. Other questions. Paul's got to go now. Bye, Paul. Glad to have you. Thanks for tuning in. Who else popped in when I wasn't paying attention? Boris is here. Welcome, Boris. Alex is here. Who else joined? Ray is here. Jerry, did I recognize you before? Jerry Frank's here, I know. Philip's here. Matthew's here. Alan Dunkel's here. RJ's here. Welcome, RJ. RJ, you remember RJ was our guest for not one, but 2 different shows. Actually, I was his guest for one show. Rod, let's see. Gilliam, we got 934, 346, North Carr, Ken Richer, Russell, Guido, Bill, Brian, 497. 497 sounds like an engine, doesn't it? 497. Stephen, Gavin, Raphael, and SU fan. Great. Okay. Raphael, thanks for coming on the call yesterday. It was great to have you. That was a sneaky thing you did, though. That was all right, though. Let's see. Russell's got to go. Great. Thank you. Jimmy H is not able to find it in iTunes. Jimmy, we will find it and send you a link to it because I wish I was an Apple guy. That looks like great stuff. And the beauty of vMix is that there are lots of different ways to use it. You can have an X keys, which is great. You can have a Korg mini control, a Korg nano control. I was thinking about getting this guy, hooking it back up and using him for audio. You can have control surfaces of all shapes and sizes. vMix is like, sure, come on. We like everybody. So, good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, I know. I want to, let's go back to Seth. Seth, for just a second. All right, we're just enough that we won't get nabbed for that one. And let's go back to our guys. Where did I put the guys? Did I kill them off? Oh no, here it is. Here it is, right here. This is the show, and I'm going to see if I can't fast forward that a little bit to get to the point where everybody was talking at once. I think that's it right there. Let's see.
About the same level that you are. You got a beefier machine, but still.
Well, it's an old one, It's second generation i7s. But they say about the old stuff. That's back when they used real metal.
I've got 2 Xeons, two quad-core Xeons. So
really?
I have all cores instead of threads.
Ah, gotcha.
I've got 8 cores and 16 gigs of RAM, but the RAM is 5200, PC2
Right.
5200.
What's your clock speed on those Xeons?
3.16.
Okay.
Just native.
And I can see Russell Washington just joined the chat room to hang out with us. So, Russell, thanks for tuning in. Let's see. It looks like Elvis has frozen.
Yep.
Oh, what was that, Giles?
And Giles is gone dark.
You lose your life?
Chroma keying in some odd colors.
Oh, I'm trying to get the black level. The black level's wrong. But when I send you black, it's still grey.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did an interesting
a
test.
light show.
And Tommy and Zach
Tommy's
just
suffering from that
proved
as well.
that we had full duplex. Okay, all right, this is my favorite part. Get ready. Here we go. So here's a test. I want everybody to talk at the same time at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm not really going to say anything.
What do you
but
want me
I'm
to
waiting for
say?
everybody else to join in.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Wow.
I would say that's
That
full
sounded-
duplex.
That sounded like one of my family reunions.
That's the cacophony feature.
Yeah, that's right. There we go. There we go. The cacophony feature. Very good, Dave. So, I mean, golly gee, I am so excited about this new feature. I mean, as somebody that brings in guests, it makes the whole guest experience way much easier. Way much? Yeah, a lot easier. And for somebody that tries to that teaches people how to use vMix, or rather, for somebody that teaches them how to do what they want to do and use vMix as part of it, to explain to somebody that's not very tech savvy how to take a Zoom call and some audio cables and vMix and hook it all up together so that it works like magic. For a lot of them, it is magic, and it's like, how in the world is that going to happen? And so to have this Zoom this call that's got essentially Zoom built into it, but it all happens within vMix, and the mix minus is perfect. It's so great. It's so great. So glad to see it. And it's going to be a great feature for vMix. And for all the folks that came from, Blab TV, you remember Blab TV from last summer, people that are using Facebook with their phones, at some point they're going to get to the point where they're going to say, having a split screen on Facebook or YouTube with another caller just doesn't cut it. I want to do more. vMix is going to be right there for them, saying, yes, we can do more. We can do overlays. We can do graphics. We can do merges and all this kind of fancy stuff. And oh, by the way, you can bring in 8 callers at the same time if you want to. Or actually, you can bring in 2 callers for the vMix 4K, which is $700, versus buying a quick link Skype TX machine for $3,500 that does 2, and that's all that machine does. This will happen on your regular PC, your regular desktop, and you bring in 2 callers, no problem, with no extra hardware, and just the vMix 4K software. It's amazing. It's amazing. Byron's saying in the chat room, this is a great comment, Byron. All the new users will never know how hard it was before. And we get to tell them the stories of when we had to walk 6 miles to vMix through the snow, barefoot, both ways uphill. Yeah. Thomas, I think vMix 19 will be released at or around NAB unless there's a problem. That's just a guess. I have no inside information on that. And NAB is, I don't see it on my calendar, April, it's late April, like the 22nd or something like that. But, keep in mind, vMix 19 is a beta. It's there now. I'm using it now. To say that let me try to think of how to say that. If the difference between vMix 19 released edition and vMix 19 beta could be this much, or it could be this much. We just don't know yet. I will tell you, for my purposes, I'm not going back to vMix 18. I'm using vMix 19 from here on out, unless something horrible happens and it's unusable. And so, try it. I mean, as you saw in today's show, we had a couple of glitches in Seth's audio, and he and I noticed that in the pre-show. That's one of the reasons why it took us so long to get to the show, is we were trying to sort of track down where that was. And he was varying his speed to me. I was varying my speed to him. I was checking through the stats to see if frames were being lost or if packets were being lost, and there wasn't. And it could have been a problem just on his end. because I did notice yesterday on the multi-call, and again, I would encourage you guys to go look at that on YouTube. On the multi-call yesterday, there were, I guess, 7, 8. At one point there were 8 people plus me, and everybody had good, smooth video. There weren't any jerks, which indicates a frame loss or drop packet or something like that. So, I think I'm pretty darn happy with that. I was just going to see if I could get up the YouTube link to that so you guys can watch that at your convenience in its entirety, and see for yourself that there wasn't anomalies. Let's see, is that it's 11 minutes. That's what it was. Okay, let's put that in chat. So that's going to go there. That's the link to the show right there. All right. Giles says Mix Minus was kind of fun. Well, yeah, for all you techies, but, for folks that want to go do it and get it done. Any news on HDI Cloud? Alexandra Linhares. I don't know. I do not know. Do not know. All right, Jimmy just got the app. He couldn't wait. Couldn't wait. I understand. I remember when Mike Phillips was trying to explain Mix Minus to me, it was like he was trying to explain to me how to eat a banana backwards. It made no sense whatever. No sense whatever. Didn't understand. It was a concept that was completely foreign. I'm not an audio guy. Audio is a big, complex logic puzzle that's beyond my brain most of the time. And then all of a sudden, one day, it snapped. It snapped, and I got it, and I understood it, and it all fell into place at that point. And that was valuable knowledge. But for people that don't like necessarily to solve problems, when a problem occurs, it's like, oh crap, a problem. A lot of you, by the nature of watching this show, are kind of like, oh wow, yeah, here's a good challenge. It's not a problem, it's a challenge, and we're gonna figure out this challenge. I like that, but a lot of people don't, and they're people that, so the barrier to entry to doing your own talk show or streaming your church service or streaming your local sports teams becomes too high for some folks. So it may be that this new vMix function makes it easier for people to get on board and do the kinds of things they want to do. All right, Dave says he's been listening on mobile, unable to chat at the time, but on a real computer now with no speakers. So still listening on mobile, but now able to join the chat. All right, great show, by the way. Hello to all the TNTers. TNT is This and That. That's the show on Monday night that Giles and Companies does. Brian says, Tom, while I don't want to rain on the vMix parade, I've yet to find an application where I can make money. I've spent the last 6 years streaming a variety of programs live from Ireland, but I didn't make a cent. I stream different events to customer websites and have tried a number of platforms. Livestream is the only one that worked for me. I have vMix 4K, but can only use it for recording where no streaming is involved. Brian, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I don't know if that's the Irish economy, but I know there are lots of people that and keeping in mind that there's going out as a streamer and offering a streaming service to somebody that wants to buy your service, and so you're a gun for hire. And if somebody's got an event, a mixed martial art event that they want to broadcast, they might come to you to do it. But then there's the other folks that are creating their own content and are making their own content a part of a larger puzzle. For example, there are a lot of folks that are that are life coaches. Let me pull that out for example. So they'll use live streaming as part of the way they promote their services as a live coach. And then they might set up small groups for live coaching, or they might do one-on-one, but that wouldn't necessarily be in a streaming context. So they've used streaming as part of their process. So it's kind of like, figuring out, what do I have to offer, and where can I bring it to bear? In my case, I'm using live streaming as a way to introduce folks to the fact that I'm a vMix reseller. I know a lot about vMix. I can teach you how to use it. I can help you solve problems with it when you get into it. I build PCs for streaming. So if you determine that I look like the kind of guy you can trust to spend money with, to get a PC to do something for you, you'll do that. I also represent PTZ Optics and Magewell and X Keys, and so you can find those on my website and purchase those. And that's how I use this stream. That's how I monetize this stream, is through the services and products that I sell. And so, the whole show is like a giant infomercial, but, it is, but it isn't. I mean, you know what I'm saying right there. And I would love to chat with you. Maybe we can set up a time to chat, you and I, and see if we can't brainstorm on some ways that you can take the skill sets that you've already got and be able to put them into use in ways that will benefit you. I feel strongly about that. All right, Giles says, mix minus can be a real brain killer. I had to really think it through to make it work. You and me both. Once you get it, it's easy. Once you get it, once you get it. Once you climb the mountain, coming down's easy. Yeah. vMix call is a dream come true for anyone who hasn't had that mix minus experience yet, except they don't know what they're missing. Yeah. Guest 119 says, isn't mix minus actually sending video and plus 7 audios rather than taking one away minus? Actually, what it is in the vMix case where I had the show, not the show, but the test yesterday, is that I was sending each guest back a different audio mix. So guest number 1 would guest number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and me, they would get all of us, but not him. Guest number 2 would get all of him, but not number 2. Guest number 3 would get all of it, but not number 3. So each guest got back a different audio feed. That's the mix minus right there. So that way they didn't hear themselves in their own ear with an annoying echo, because there's always going to be some sort of latency. All right. Giles says there's all sorts of things he doesn't send to his guests, like background music. Huh. I like sending the guests background music, but it's all personal preference. Got 119 says, so you're sending you're sending video plus 7 was rather than actually taking one away. Just saying. I think we're saying the same thing. Yeah. Byron says, Tom, how much difference would going from GTX 750 to a 1060 or 1070 make? That much? It depends on your application. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're doing a talk show like this, you might not notice the difference. If you're doing live sports with a lot of motion and a lot of movement and a lot of color changes, a lot of cameras tracking back and forth and switching cameras, it might make a lot of difference. It has to do with vMix, and it's going to be the difference between processing, audio, video at, right now we're streaming 720. We're recording 1080. Well, we're not recording right now, but vMix, YouTube's recording, but we're not recording. But if we wanted to stream 1080, the graphics card would be more important. If we wanted to stream 4K, the graphics card would be hugely important. The 750 would just give up and die. What the dividing line is between one or the other, I don't know. But I always get the biggest one I can afford. That's my clue. All right. Alexandra says, does Blackmagic Quad 2 work to get 8 channels in? Yes, it does. Very nicely. You have to reconfigure the card, because when you get it stock from the factory, it comes with 4 in and 4 out. And so you have to take the 4 outs and convert those to ins. And so when they line up, they don't line up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They line up like 1, 1, 3, 4, 7. Some sort of crazy numbering system. Whenever we send PCs to customers where we've put a Blackmagic Quad 2 in it, we always number the ports individually so that they'll get the right number. Martin S. says, nothing worse than hearing yourself. Martin, what's the weather out there today? Brian Daly says, Tom, I love vMix and all the features and the support I get from Martin, but at this stage I need to make money from the experience I've gained from live production since 2010. I agree, Brian. I agree. You need to make money, dude. You need to make some money. The trick is not here. The trick is here. That's it. Because you've got the talents. The trick is how to put the talents to work and find the opportunities. Either find them or make them. Scott P. says, thanks for an informative show. He needs to run and have some fun. Well, don't let us get in your way. Boris says, radio call-in shows spend thousands of dollars in equipment to do mix minus for the caller. Yes, they do. Let's see. Giles says, hearing yourself, you get slower and slower and slower. Are you talking about me? Or are you just talking about hearing yourself in your own ears? All right, Alex Free says, do you record, say, 1080, stream 720, and send SD to an external DVD recorder? Oh, can you do that? You can record 1080. You can stream 720. And can you send standard definition to an external DVD recorder? Yeah, I think you could. Let's see. Yeah, you can set the external output in vMix to whatever you want, and so it'd just be a matter of hooking up the DVD recorder to a port on your PC that could take the audio and video out. Yep. Jan has 1 Blackmagic Quad 2. Do you need more than 1? Martin says the weather is very British. Yes. Have a cup of tea with it, Martin. Giles says that's only when not in sync. Well, Guido, I'll tell you, audio gets out of sync pretty easily, especially if it's going over distance. So if, for example, or going around in the computer. So if I were to monitor my own audio at my mixer instead of monitoring at my PC, oh, no. Let me take that back. If I were to monitor my audio at the PC right now, it would drive me crazy because I would be well, let's see, I can turn it on. You can't hear it, but I can. And let's see how far behind I am. Check 1, 2. I'm about check. Can y'all hear two of me? Check. Yeah, that would drive me nuts. Question to the Quad 2 card. Do all the inputs need to be the same resolution and frame rate? No, they do not. Jens has been in contact with some Danish guys, there's trouble right there, that provide streaming services, and they plan to do 4K streaming for a client soon. Hope I can be part of that project. Would be so cool. Indeed. And if you are, Jens, let us know. We'd love to hear about that and follow you on that one. Jan says, yes, you can do different frame rate and resolution on every input. Brian says, Martin, you have a lot of experience of the weather in the English countryside by doing your OB work for this and that, which is very enjoyable. What Brian is referring to is that Martin Sheen, is on the This and That show every Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on StepBackInTimeTV.com, I think is it, or is it StepBackInTime.tv? Put it in the chat and correct me, please. But generally, Martin will go off grid, and so he'll work with a battery or a portable generator and a cell phone connection, and he'll be broadcasting in from who knows where, in the middle of a field out in the boonies somewhere. Very impressive. Very impressive. Yen says, Tom Sinclair, nope. I missed it. I'm sorry. Let's see. All right, Scott P's got some ideas for Brian. He's got $4,000 worth of advertising in the past 2 weeks, and his online channel has only been going for 2 months. It has brought in just under $20K since he started it, and he's only part-time. Brian, you need to get up with Scott P. No doubt about it. Scott P., you need to get up with me. Giles said, only heard one of you, but you slowed down. It's about 50 millisecond delay normally. Probably, yeah. Alex Free said, thanks so much. Tom, I'm trying to develop a system for my church, but have not used vMix yet. Download it and use it. vMix.com. You can download a free trial and use it to your heart's content. Scott Pianta gives you his address. There it is. It's even got my last name as part of it. US Systems Sync. There you go. And he's got to stream a game tonight. Oh, Giles says it's stepbackinTime.tv. There you go. Brian Daly's sharing his email. Martin Sheen says, and you must be in shorts. Actually, I'm in jeans today, but it's kind of low 70s. Rich says, what did I miss? Rich, is that just the story of your life? Especially after last night. Oh, goodness. All right, Kenny H. says, here's a long one. I've been thinking strange thoughts, so please forgive the idiot part here. Kenny, you're in the right audience. Would this work? The vMix user sets up a service to offer video calling meeting. You then invite the client's list of guests to your vMix system, but the client controls the view and audio from that remote location using Seth's control app over IP. At this point, the vMix user is a middle service to the conference call. I think you can do the same thing on Zoom right now without having a vMix in the way. I don't know that you're going to be able to find people to pay you to do something that Zoom will do for $9 a month, because you won't be able to do it for $9 a month. All right, Scott P. has got a bunch of people that want to talk to him. Boris says vMix is the only way to go for church streaming. I agree with that. Guido says Scott's going to be busy. Giles says even in warm overalls he would be still cold where Martin goes in shorts. Alex says, Boris, yes, I'm replacing a TriCaster. Alex, if I had a nickel for everybody that had ever told me I'm replacing a TriCaster with vMix, I would have a bunch of nickels. In fact, who was it? Jim Jacobs was on the show a while back, and Jim called me a year or more ago, and he said, Tom, I got this TriCaster, and I want to do all this streaming. I said, Jim, you need to sell that TriCaster today for whatever you can get for it, because tomorrow it's going to be worth less than it is today, and you can buy 3 vMix machines for the price of the TriCaster. And he did. John L. says, Kenny, I think vMix is the wrong tool for that service. Blah, 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 blah. Yep. Take a look at Zoom. There we go. Zoom is very good. Absolutely. And, there'll be things, Kenny, that we can do that are specific to a client's need. And a client's going to say, all right, I can't do this in Zoom. I can't do this in Skype. I don't want to buy a $3,500 quick link machine or a new tech talk show machine because I only need to do this on occasion. Can you set me up with a way to bring 6 guests in and stream to a specific location and do that for me every Thursday, because I don't want to own the equipment myself, and I don't have to worry about the technical angle of it. He might be able to make Zoom do that. But is he going to be willing to pay you $150 an hour to come do that for him? A lot of people are trying to market their services at what they think is a bare minimum, going out for $50 an hour or such. And what they're going to do is they're going to find that they've set the bar so low that they can't get it high. And it's much easier to set the bar high and bring it down a little bit than it is to set it low and raise it. I used to do a lot of price analysis on things, and that's what I found out. Alex says, what specs for a 12 HD input? Well, is this for sports? Is this for talk show? Is this for church? Did you already say what you were saying before, what it might be? Oh, no, that was Alex Free that said for the church. A 12 HD input, Alexander, that's a great question because there may be more than one way to do that. vMix has the technology built into it that NewTek developed called NDI, Network Device Interface, which allows you to share video resources across a network as if the camera were attached physically to your PC. So you could have, 2 or 3 PCs on the same network. It would have to be a gigabit network where they might be sharing cameras so that one single PC doesn't have to have 12 cameras all hooked up to it. You might have 3 hooked up here and 3 hooked up here and then 6 hooked up to this one, something like that. So depending on the nature of what you're doing, it might have some specific solutions that kind of present themselves pretty easily. But otherwise, I built a PC for a racetrack up in Michigan. They wanted 8 inputs, and we put in a what was it? A 6-core processor with 64 gigabytes of RAM, just because we weren't sure. We wanted to have plenty, and the biggest, baddest video card we could find. In video card, I think back then it was the 900 series was out, so it was probably like a 980, something like that. And it just flew. It flew. It was great. That was 8 inputs. And the reality was they said, oh, well, really we're only using 6. But they had 8. In fact, they had 2 machines. One that did instant replay and fed that to the main machine, and then the instant replay machine was their backup machine in case the backup ever went down. So it's definitely doable. I mean, the CPU, the RAM, and the graphics card are the key, and then, of course, whatever the input card is, too. Any idea why in vMix pan and crop is in different units? I think pan is in percentages and crop is in pixels. That's my guess. Is for you, it's simpler than using the uni unit. In panning, you have to go from -2 to +2. Center is +1 is half the screen. In cropping, you have pixel dependent of source input. Frankly, Jan, I didn't pay that much attention to it. I just said, okay, this is what I want. I need to adjust it by this much to get where I need to be. And if I'm going to duplicate this among different inputs, then I'm going to write down my numbers and put in those same numbers. I didn't get that far. I'm not that smart. All right, Alex says it's a TriCaster Studio SD machine, so no value. It might have salvage value. It might have donation value to your local school. So you might try that. Jimmy found it iPad only. Matthew says NDI is awesome. Yes, it is. vMix has got NDI. vMix has got vMix call. All right, Alexander says some sports too. Okay. Are you going to be hauling this out, or is this going to be permanently installed? There are lots of questions that sort of determine how you build what you build. One of the services that I offer is basically a design and specification. So if you want to build it, but you want somebody like me to come in and say, okay, based on all these needs, this is what you need, I can do that for you. It's on my website. John says, Jan, good question. Martin says, Giles, coldy and windy there. Jan says, it's crazy when you want to pan and crop a dimension. What you pan in a little box. It's crazy when you want to pan and crop a dimension. What you put in a little box. You got to help me with that one. I got it. All right. Giles says it's cold there, windy too. Alexander says, so NDI takes less resources than capture cards. No, no. I think CPU wise, NDI might take more than capture card. NDI is in version 2, which is much more efficient than version 1 was, and I think there's a version 3 that's coming out at some point in the future, maybe by NAB, that may have some even more benefits to it. But the beauty of NDI is that you can distribute and then regain your sources. So, for example, you could have 3 PCs doing a sports event. Each PC had, let's just say for the sake of argument, each PC had 4 cameras, and each PC could stream. So you're getting 3 different streams of the same event, but each PC could also share their 4 cameras with the others on the network. So I could borrow one of your cameras, and Alexander says I'll travel with it. This box suddenly got much smaller, much smaller. So we need to get a Blackmagic Quad 2, which is 8, and a Blackmagic Decklink Duo 2, which is 4. That's going to give you 12 channels in 2 slots. And then we need the biggest, baddest graphics card we can possibly put in the box. We need at least a 6-core processor, maybe even looking at that 10-core processor, so that if it's not out already, it's going to be out soon. Yeah, that's going to be a great build. What are you going to do with audio? You want to plug that audio straight into your box that you're traveling with? I mean, is this something that has to go on an airplane, or can you put it in a travel case? Rich says, so vMix 19 has changed the direction of live streaming again. No other software has their own cloud meeting solution. Everyone will be playing catch up, and the critics will be coming out of the woodwork. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. Boris sounds like politics. John L. Speaking of NDI and capture, anyone have any experience using the multi-quarter and the NDI CPU usage? I need to size a computer that can take 8 NDI 1080p feeds and record them. Well, just take 4 and go times 2. Right? Jan says, when you get a guest in multi-view box, and when he moves left to right, you can't fix it easily on live. You must pan source, recrop left and right. That is true. You can't use the same units to add, subtract numbers. That is true. That is absolutely true. Absolutely, Jan. And, I was thinking about that earlier when I noticed Seth was a little kind of off center, and I thought, I'm going to go in and straighten him out. And then I realized, if I move him, then I have to recrop him. If my graphic were to lay on top and he were to lay in a hole in the graphic and there wasn't anything necessarily around him, I could put him behind that hole and then move him as needed. So it kind of depends on how you do your graphics, how you're going to sequence things in your multi-view. That would be fun to play with. I think there might be a solution there, Jan. Matthew has pushed 4 NDI outputs at the same time from his streaming PC without any noticeable increase to his system load and recording at the same time. Matthew, 1080p, 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second. What was the bit rate? Give us some details. Jimmy says, love it, 19. All right, Alexander wants to go on an airplane. Yeah, that's going to be a great build. You're going to have fun with that. But seriously, if you want somebody to help you dial it in, shoot me an email. Tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com. Thomas says he's testing this weekend. He's got 3 computers. Computer 1 will have 4 cameras. Computer 2 will have 4 cameras. Computer 3 will be running instant replay. I am doing a test this weekend at an exhibition baseball game. Thomas, that is way cool. That is just way cool. I am in love with that. I'd love to see what you're doing when you test it. If you're going to stream it, I'd love to watch. Baseball is just perfect for live streaming and perfect for a ton of cameras. And the cameras don't necessarily have to be manned cameras. because so much action, the pitcher to catcher, the first base play, the play to the outfield, the play to second base, play to third base. A lot of those can be static shots, even zoomed from the static shot. For the multi-quarter, make sure you have very fast drive separate from all your other drives. SSD is a must, indeed. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. Oh, Rafael says all cameras, cables, tripods, batteries on the airplane too. All right, Matthew is doing 1080p, 30 frames. There you go. That's great. Jan said, I made a forum post about adding shortcuts to pan, crop, multi-view sources. Yes, you did. I read that. I didn't understand it, but now that you've explained it, I do. Yes, John wants to know your secrets, Thomas. John, CLW Beach, can you use an Akai APC mini MIDI device with vMix? Oh, yes, you can. And you will love it. You will love it. I think vMix has a template in there for that. Let's see. Settings. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Where is it? I'm just drawing a blank. Where do I normally set that up? Oh, yeah, here it is, under shortcuts. Templates. There's a template for the ba-dum-bum-bum. The Akai APC 40 MKII for the Akai APC Mini. Yep. And the Shuttle Pro 2 and the Launch Control XL and the joystick Xbox controller and the X Keys MIDI note and the MIDI control change and the PTZ joystick. Yeah, there's all sorts of cool stuff. And wow, there's a new display here that shows the shortcuts. I am loving this. I got to come back and play with that some more. Yeah, it's on, go to settings, go to shortcut, and you will find out about the Akai. Philip wants to know more, Thomas. Yes, indeed. Thomas says, I wasn't going to stream it. I was just going to test it. The instant replay is what I'm worried about the more. Well, when you do that, record it and share it with us, because we are anxious to steal all your secrets. I mean, see what you're doing. Rich says, who wants to take that stuff on a plane? Message me. Been doing that for 2 years now, taking all my gear in planes. Rich, we need to get you on the show. Oops, excuse me, to talk about taking stuff on planes. Ray says vMix can use any MIDI device. That is true. That is absolutely true. Vedran says, trying out vMix CF on iPad Mini 1. That would be the control surface, I think. Works amazingly fast. Wow. Giles says the Mini is natively supported. You can even make it light up with activators. X keys are more robust, though. Would recommend that if you have the budget. Jan says, why use a separate PC to instant replay? How to sync play when cut to another vMix with instant replay? Thomas says he's going to record it. Jan, I think one of the reasons why people like to have a separate machine is so that they can have a separate operator. And then, of course, it comes into vMix over NDI as an input and can be incorporated into the broadcast. And obviously everybody's talking to each other. Say, okay, here it's come, it's ready. Okay, I'm going with it now. That kind of thing. All right, John is planning for a big event. And CS is control surface. Yeah, I got you. And John says the budget is in flames. Well, that happens to the best of us, John. Our budgets go up in flames all the time here. Let's see. Oh, that's where I thought I was. All right. All right. Well, we've had some fun today. We've had some fun today. Thank you. Let's see if we got analytics that we can see. We had 300 people on YouTube on this call today. That's fun. Not everybody could stay the whole time, obviously. Some people just popped in for a second. You guys watched a total of 123 hours of video. The average live view duration so far has been 24 minutes and 4 seconds. All right. All right, cool. That's fun. That's fun. Okay, let's see. Bray says, with a MIDI sequencer, you can automate super fast switching of all your sources. Absolutely. And Giles is only 18 hours away from John. Thomas says, a separate person to run instant replay is huge, makes life much easier. Yep. John's budget right now is 550 pounds or 50,000 pounds. John is doing what John is it the national finals of roller derby, I think, something like that. Thank you, Dave. Seth was a good guest. Thank you, Kenny. It was a good show. John says good show. Yeah, let's fold our tents on this one. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate everybody joining in. If I didn't welcome you earlier, I apologize, but I sure am glad that you showed up. And we will be back at this again next week. Next week, I should have announced it during the show. Next week, Nick Craig is going to be here. Nick Craig is he writes apps. He did, when Roku was first coming out, he was designing abilities to get your stream on Roku. I think he's still doing that. And I know he plays games. I think he tests games, and he may be writing games. And Nick is a prodigy. Plus, he's also part of Amnon Nissan's Sunday morning show, Computers 2K Now, and he's a big vMix guy. So it'll be fun to have Nick on and talk about, from a young buck standpoint, the experience of discovering vMix. He's a former Wirecast guy. John says this is a bigger event than even Nationals, and he's doing that too. Good job, John. Good job, John. Jan says, why you can't add one more display and MIDI device only for instant replay, and if replay is ready, main operator can just cut. You can. I have some folks that do that. They add an extra keyboard, and they do it that way. Rafael says, guys, do you have an idea how to check what is the power consumption for a PCIe card like the Blackmagic Mini recorder? Should be in their specs. If it's not, it should definitely be in the specs. All right, John says the pet project is the MES Roller Derby World Cup 2018 in Barcelona, 4 days of streaming. Well, I'll come over for that. Yeah. Said last year's, the 2016 Roller Derby had 32,000 viewers on pay-per-view. 32,000 viewers, pay-per-view, let's say that's $20 a piece. So that's $640,000. I think that budget will work. Yeah, I can do it for less than that. Oh, you guys are fun. You guys are fun. Thank you. thank you for tuning in. We'll have this show up on YouTube in a little while. Sometimes it takes a while to upload and process, but if you missed it, or if you want to tune back in and see it in 1080p, it will be there. And y'all are a treat. I'm honored by your presence, of course, except for a couple of you. and you know who you are. Oh, my goodness. All right. I'm going to give you something to roll out with, and then we'll catch you later on the flip side. So be good and have fun.